I'm a hair mineral analysis expert. I have a background in functional medicine, and I educate people using HTMA testing to maximize health, erase debilitating symptoms, and gain energy. I'm a multi-time kettlebell sport world champion, and I'm constantly searching for high-performance pros from all over the world to bring you this human optimization podcast. My name is Lisa Pitel-Killah. Welcome, everybody, to a brand new episode of the Human Optimization Podcast. And I think you're going to be really excited to hear our conversation today. So I have Mahryan Shain, CEO at More Hair Naturally. He's been an executive in More Hair Naturally since 2003. He is also an actor that's played multiple roles from 99 to 2017. I can't wait to dive into that. And his passion for natural, safe, holistic health solutions will inspire and empower you. So I hope you have a few aha moments. And so I really want you to think about some of the things today as we talk through what More Hair Naturally brings to the table with regards to lifestyle, holistic health, and then of course, using things that are eco-friendly. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So welcome, Mahryah.
Yeah, hey, thanks.
Nice to have you with us.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I'm really excited to be on the show and to have an opportunity to chat with you.
Absolutely. And so share with everybody. It's been 20 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so tell us, obviously just before you started in that role, what brought you there? And obviously now into today, tell us a little more about you.
Absolutely. So, this started as it's a family business. It has kind of a natural origin to it because so our family, we've always been raised, my family and myself have always come from the philosophy of everything you need for your body is in nature. I mean, we've been on this planet for millions of years, and our bodies have evolved synergistically with the environment. So we're made to work and survive based on the environment. So whenever something happened in my family, we'd always turn first to the natural remedy, like what can we use to get our immune system strong again to handle itself? Because we're strong, we're made to survive, we're made to live. So like, how can we enhance that? So that's always been our approach to life, as my parents and me as a kid and just growing up. Mm-hmm. Now, hair loss has always been in my family. Every single man in my family is 100% bald. I am thankful to have what I have. So my dad started losing his hair, and this was 90s, somewhere in the early 90s, something like that. And there's nothing out there. There was nothing out there except for the same drugs that are used today that were invented in the 70s, and they come with side effects, and they don't work very well. And but that's all that was available. And there were natural remedies, but they weren't great. It's like rubbing an onion on your head, or things like that, which it has validity, actually.
I was like, maybe?
Well, the sulfur content. It's the sulfur content in the onion that's actually great for hair growth. But you're never going to get what you need by rubbing an onion on your head. Right. So anyway, so my father started going down the drug, and we were like, huh? But he did. He was desperate. So he started going down the drug route because that was all that was there. Mm-hmm. And he started getting really sick. He lost all his energy. He actually started developing breasts because it started altering his hormone levels. My goodness. And so we were like, whoa. And he was like, whoa, okay. And my mom's Italian. Mm-hmm. And we have some family in the Lake Como region of Italy. And she was talking to them, and they mentioned this little lab that was doing some really cool stuff with hair growth. Yep. And so it was all natural, and it was pretty interesting. And so she's like, well, can you get us some and send it to us? So they sent it over, and my father started seeing some results, and we became the North American distributors. So that's essentially, that was the entrance into the hair loss field. And then I started working with him in kind of growing this new business and developing it, and just the ins and outs of trying to figure out, like, what do we do? How do we let people know about this really cool thing we got? And so that's where we started. And then one of the things that was happening is it was working and it was doing great. We were doing well, but we weren't seeing the results we really wanted to see. Like
Mm,
we want a miracle product. We still
of
don't have the
course.
miracle product, but that's
Yeah.
what we want. We want the miracle product. So we're like, how do we make this better? How do we improve this? Because it was getting results, but it wasn't getting results fast enough, and it wasn't getting results like full enough, and it wasn't coming back
Mhm.
strong enough, and it was working, but not as well as we wanted it to work. And so
Yeah.
we started researching medical journals from around the world because science didn't go to sleep in 1970. So we're like, why is the main products being used still the ones from the 70s? Like science has got to be researching what's happening in hair growth in that field of thinning hair.
Yeah.
So we in the natural area.
Yeah.
And so we started finding all these laboratory studies with stem cells, probiotics, amino acids,
Mm,
uh, and all these other nutrients that in laboratory studies were producing amazing results, but they weren't in
mm,
products. So we found a lab. We're in California. We found a lab here in California.
mhm.
And we're like, listen, here's all these amazing things that we're finding that are happening all over the world. Can we take all these ingredients and just put them in one product? Is that
Yeah.
even possible to do? Like, and at the clinical strength that is getting results, not just
Right.
enough to say it's in there, but enough to actually make a difference.
Yeah.
And it took a couple years, and then they figured out how to do it. And so at that point, what we did was we moved everything to California,
Mhm.
and we started making our own products based on this approach and this philosophy. And since then, every product we released, we've looked at what goal did we want to accomplish,
Yeah.
and then we figured out what studies, what's being done in the field of science to accomplish these goals, and then how do we take that and make a product around that.
Yeah.
And that's what we've been doing ever since, and that's where
That
we're at now.
is amazing. Well, and so let's talk about, I mean, talking just about, so first of all, you're talking about natural ingredients, right?
Yes,
That's an important part.
definitely.
And obviously the benefit that comes with it. And so talk a little bit more about, I mean, just about clean products, right? Those ingredients that we really want to dig into, because I think nowadays that's part of the problem, is that we're being exposed to so many of these things which could be chemical laden, heavy
Mhm.
metal, they're not heavy metal tested, and then we're just obviously causing our bodies more harm even though we're trying to do something good.
Absolutely. And it kind of harks back to what I was talking about earlier on when like our bodies are made to survive synergistically with the environment.
Mhm.
And the reason why that worked for millions of years is because we didn't have all of the compound chemicals and all the
Right.
all the elements that are now introduced into our systems, which is
Yeah.
why our bodies are failing,
Yeah.
to work the way they're supposed to work. It's because of all these other factors. So if we could limit it, I mean, it's impossible to limit it. It's impossible to completely, unless we move to like a remote rainforest, we're going to be
Even then.
exposed. Even then, I know, even then
Even
now,
then.
but we're going to be exposed to toxic elements that are going to mess with our immune
Yeah.
system, mess with our hormone levels, mess with everything.
Yeah.
Um, but if what we can limit, let's limit. There's certain things we can control, and let's control the things that we can control. So we're actually in a sense of power and empowering ourselves
Yeah.
to live longer and healthier and happier and better, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Makes
So,
total
and what
sense.
we can control is what we put in our body, put on our body, and have in contact with our
Yes.
body.
You just said one, and this is so important. So, if anything out of that last sentence that the audience takes away is what we put on our bodies, right? Because we think about what we're eating, what we're drinking, all the exercise we're
Mhm.
doing, different things, but we don't realize our skin is one of our biggest organs of absorption,
Yeah, I
right?
know.
So we
Yeah,
have to respect what we're putting on ourselves because it will affect us from the inside out.
absolutely. And I mean, one way, like for your listeners to really grasp that is, in hospitals, they'll give you all kinds of medication on a patch,
Mm, yeah,
you
makes
know,
sense. Mm-hmm.
and they'll just put a patch that'll have all kinds of medications in it.
Yeah.
So if that patch is just absorbing into your body and your bloodstream, so is everything else that's going on in your body. It's absorbing in there.
Exactly. Exactly. And so let's talk. So we're here to talk about hair as well, right? We're
Yeah,
talking about growing hair. And
absolutely.
so holistic hair care. What does
Yes.
that mean to you? What is your
Okay.
definition of that?
That's a good question. No one's ever asked me that question. So if so so from so to answer it, it would mean addressing the hair from the internal
Mhm.
as well as addressing it from the external, because there's internal elements and there's external elements. And if you address both of them at the same time, you're going to achieve maximum results. We,
Yeah.
at this point, we're still, more hair naturally is still only addressing external elements,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
we found that in our research in terms of how to address thinning hair, there is a very strong component that's external that has to be addressed regardless of the internal setup. Basically, so when when our hair is thinning, here's the mechanics of it. I mean, there's lots of causes. There's stress, there's diet, there's illness, there's deficiencies. But the overall arcing cause
Mhm.
is something called DHT,
Mhm.
which any like Google of like, why is my hair falling out? You'll see this term DHT flying around.
Yeah.
Now, what that is and how it affects your hair is like this. It's pretty simple. Okay, so when your body breaks down the male hormone testosterone, it creates a byproduct called dihydrotestosterone,
Mhm.
which is DHT. Now, this is just excreted through your body. It's not a big deal. However, here's where it becomes a big deal. When it passes by your hair follicle, our hair follicles have on them little DHT receptor sites, which for a visual is a pothole, like a
Okay.
pothole.
Mhm.
So when the DHT, and by the way, this is the inherited trait. When people say hair loss is inherited,
Yeah.
hair loss is not inherited. What's inherited are these potholes on the follicle. That's the inherited trait. Now, so when someone has hair loss, it's a balance between how much testosterone they create
Mhm.
or are creating at that moment. So because that's what produces the DHT, and how many potholes they have on their follicle.
Ah.
Potholes not a technical term, but it's a nice visual, so I like using it because it's just
Yep.
clear. You know
Yep.
what I mean? And so as the DHT passes by the follicle, it gets stuck in the pothole. And when it gets stuck, it cuts off a little bit of the blood flow. Now, over time, as more and more gets stuck, less and less blood starts being delivered to the follicle, and the follicle begins to get weaker and weaker,
Huh.
and then it eventually dies. As it gets weaker and weaker, it gets thinner and thinner
Yeah.
and dies. So our goal has always been to get that DHT off the follicle so
Mhm.
the blood can start flowing back to the follicle on its own.
Mhm.
And then we start bombarding that follicle with stem cells, probiotics, amino acids.
Yeah.
So we're helping it rebuild with the blood flow coming back to it and the stem cells and amino acids helping rebuild it at the same time. So we're really fortifying it to get it back, get it back to a strong, healthy state so it can start to produce strong, healthy hair again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why the external element is really important, because you can have all the right building blocks to have great, strong, crazy, beautiful hair. But if that DHT is clogged, is like latching onto that follicle, not letting the blood to it, it won't happen. So you got to get that DHT off the follicle. And we found a way to do it where it doesn't affect any, it just gets it off the follicle and just enters the bloodstream and is excreted. So we're not messing with your hormone levels, because that's just a terrible idea across the boards.
Yeah.
There's lots of like people like, oh, let's take DHT blockers, or let's just lower hormone levels and all that stuff. You know, like harking back, our bodies have been here for millions of years. We don't even know how our body works together, but everything's connected. So
Mhm.
if you start changing that DHT hormone, it might work for your hair. but there's so many other elements in your body that are working together that you change one little thing, it has a whole ripple effect.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so what about just with regards to, so, someone has hair loss, okay?
Mhm.
They notice it early.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of the key to some of this too, right? Is at what point they notice and then actually begin to do something about it. Am I right?
It is. And yeah, because the earlier you address it, the easier it is to fix. Because if
Right.
you wait too long, the follicle dies. And if the
Right.
follicle's dead, there's nothing that can be done.
Okay.
A dead follicle is indicated by like a shiny, bald scalp. That means the
Yeah.
follicle has died,
Yeah.
and nothing can help that. So the sooner, the better. Women actually get better results with us because they don't mess around. Their hair starts thinning and they call
They're
or
like,
they order and they're
yeah.
like, this is being handled now.
Right.
Which is great that they do that because they get good, fast, solid results.
Yeah.
A man will wait 20 years, and we're like, so we can help you, but there's a lot of dead follicles up there. So you're never going to get 100% back,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and we can help, but you know, there's a lot of dead follicles. It's going to take a while because it's going to be a bigger commitment on your end,
Yeah.
because there's a
Yeah.
lot of DHT to clean off and a lot of damage to repair.
Hmm.
So it's better. The sooner always better. Yes.
Always better. Yeah. And so what about, you know, thinking about that, identifying it early.
Yeah.
And so hair loss, I mean, there's obviously various causes. You've touched on some of them already, one including genetics, of course. And so what about and I feel like this sounds like such a um, rhetorical question, but I don't think it is, because I feel like some people have hair loss, but they don't really realize that it's the beginning of it. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe they think
Sure.
it's something else, or it's like it happens for a little period of time and then it kind of goes back to normal. I feel like there's signs that maybe signs that people need to look for to be able to
Yeah.
fully identify that this is actually happening.
No, it's great because it's very true what you're saying. Because shedding is part of life. We
Yeah.
we shed. All mammals shed. We shed seasonally. Our hair growth has a shedding cycle built into it, which is
Yeah.
part of healthy hair growth.
Hmm.
Because the follicle will grow. It'll grow a hair, and then it kind of sits there for a little bit, and then it starts to grow a new hair. And as it's growing the new hair, it pushes the old hair out. So, and that's a natural shedding. So you constantly are growing hair, pushing the old hair, growing new hair, pushing the old hair, and
Yeah.
it's a cycle.
Yeah.
But and you kind of have an idea because it's something that happens your entire life. So
Right.
you kind of have an idea of, how much hair do I see in the shower? How much hair
Mm.
do I see on the brush? How much
Right.
hair do I maybe see on the pillow or around? You have that, you have a sense of that.
Yeah.
It's when you start to see more than normal.
Mm. Okay. So
That's
on your
when there's
brush,
that's
right? In the
yeah,
shower. Yeah. Okay.
it's when you start to notice excessive amounts.
Mm. Okay.
That's when it should be addressed. And it could be temporary too. It's not necessarily, oh, I see shedding amounts, I'm going bald.
Right.
It's not necessarily you see extra amounts, go into panic mode. You know,
Right.
just
Yeah.
kind of notice it and see like, okay, do I have a lot of stress in my life right now? Stress is a major, major factor in hair loss. And it's
Hmm.
something that we have a lot of clients that we help through those stressful periods to help them keep their hair. And it's temporary, you know what I mean? So they'll come with 6 months, and they'll use it for 6 months because it's like a cycle. If you have like major stress, the hair loss will catch up to you in a month or two,
Right.
maybe
Yeah.
3 months is when you'll start to see it. So it's like a little 6 month like program we'll get them on to help them through that time and help their hair through the stressful time, and then they
Yeah.
they stop and then revisit if they need to. But generally it's that. So it's more just trying to be in tune with your body and like looking at like, okay, I'm seeing more hair. What's going on in my life? Have I had a major diet change?
Hmm.
Am I trying a new diet? Sometimes when you
Yeah.
drastically switch your eating
Yeah.
patterns, it can throw your body into a little bit of a shock, which will affect your hair. So there's things to sort of check out.
Yeah, and I think that's a big one. And I kind of want to go down that road a little bit because we are talking
Yeah.
about holistic health, right?
Yeah.
And I think that there's you mentioned earlier that what your product is bringing to the table, which is I want to dive into that a little bit more because it's really interesting with the stem cell research and things like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
But that's the external part that you can add to help again kind of fill some of those potholes and be able to bypass those. But then we have to look at what's happening in the body too. You mentioned stress. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like stress is the number one, and there's so many, there's thousands of different things that could be causing us stress every day, right?
Sure.
So there's so many different things that we think about and how that person either deals with that stress, but
Mhm.
also other things like exercise,
Exercise.
diet, how much are you sleeping, right? Let's talk about
Yeah.
some of those things because I think that all of that big picture adds to this because if one of those things is out of whack or multiple parts of it are not in balance, that adds to more stress.
Yeah. Absolutely. All of it does. Sleep is major, which, and I've been kind of going down that rabbit hole lately
Yeah.
for myself because I'm a notorious non-sleeper. I just always have been in my entire
Yeah.
life, and I know it's not okay. So for my own personal, well-being, I've been kind of like going down like a sleep journey, and everything that I've read, or every podcast I listen to, or book I've read, everything talks about it's essential. It's so essential to give your body that time to reset. It's essential for your health. It's essential for your productivity, and it's a discipline. It's actually it's a discipline. You just have to do it. You just have to make it happen. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I have to make myself be in bed by 10. 9:30 is best. 10, I just have to make myself do it because if I don't make myself do it, I won't go to bed till 1. But I get up around 5:45, 6 o'clock. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not okay for
Not
my
enough.
body. It's not okay for my family. It's not okay for the business. You know what I mean? It's just not okay. So it's just discipline, and I heard this in this definition of discipline the other day. It was like discipline is doing what you know you should do at the time that it needs to be done, regardless if you want to do it or not.
Yep. That
I
is
thought that was like
100% true.
such a smart definition of the word discipline. I was like,
Absolutely. Oh my
okay, I
goodness.
get it. That's pretty brilliant right there.
That
But
is.
sleep's essential. It's
Yeah.
essential.
Yeah.
And then nutrition is also, and diet. Nutrition and diet, well, they're hand in hand. They should be the same thing. Ideally, they should be the same thing. Like if you're not, you don't, if you're not necessarily taking supplements, which I kind of think in this day and age with the quality of our food and what's happening in our just general environmental toxins, we are deficient in ways that food won't necessarily be able to supplement. However, as a general rule, you can do pretty well in your nutritional intake
Hmm.
just by having a good focused diet, like trying to eat organic,
Yeah.
trying to stay away from meats or fishes that have hormones or,
Yeah.
pesticides or anything in it. That's really, fishes are tricky these days, unfortunately, because we've kind of destroyed our oceans. And it's hard to eat because fish is great. It's it's great for our bodies. It's so good in so many levels, but there's so many heavy metals in it, especially like mercury, that it's kind of like you have to kind of do it in proportions, like
Exactly.
small levels now. Um, but in terms of that, though, mercury is a big hair loss factor as well. If you heavy metal poisoning, heavy metals will cause your hair to fall out if you have
Yeah.
excessive heavy metals. And I know that you focus on that. Like
Hmm.
what do you suggest for someone that has that? Like how do they get that out of their body?
Yeah. And so, I mean, from my perspective, and it's, there's another aspect to that too, is it's not even just about heavy metals. It is, but that's only part
Yeah.
of it because there can be other minerals that can build to toxic levels in the body too, which can cause hair loss. And
Yeah,
then, of
that's so
course,
true.
start affecting glands. We know that thyroid has a lot to do with hair and hair loss,
Big
right? So
deal.
your thyroid
Yeah,
starts struggling, and all of a sudden we have hair loss due to that fact.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, for me and my approach is, when we have heavy metals, many times they can't be avoided, right? They're everywhere. They're in our environment.
they're
We're
everywhere.
breathing them in, right? I could be exposed to them right now, just sitting in my office, right? Which I
Right.
most likely am. And so the ultimate goal is to, as you're talking about, holistic, right? Sleeping,
Yeah.
getting good sleep, making sure your nutrition is dialed in, making sure you're getting some good quality exercise. It doesn't have to be super strenuous. It just needs to be
Mhm.
movement, right?
Yeah.
And focusing on some of those things, lifestyle factors, right? Making some good lifestyle choices. And I think underlying to all of that is making sure you're getting good mineral rich foods into the picture, and potentially supplementing. I mean, it depends on the person,
Yeah.
but the body in many cases will be able to move these metals out if they have sufficient mineral stores in the body already, right?
Right.
And our body's functioning well, right? Our adrenals are doing well, and our thyroid's operating well. And if all these things are going well, then that exposure to heavy metals, our body can really minimize it for us, and detox it right away.
Yeah.
But if we're not in that state, and we're in a stress state, and we're not sleeping, and maybe we're not eating properly, and all these things, and all of a sudden we're nutrient deficient, and then guess what? If we have these heavy metals in our environment, the body's going to hang on to them, because ultimately,
Yeah.
you said it earlier, our main goal of our body every day is to survive,
Yeah.
right? And so it will do that however it needs to. And a lot of times you see the sequestering of heavy metals just because someone's deficient in a vital mineral many times. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so true.
And again, I mean, those can be temporary things, or they can be, depending on the person and how quickly they realize what's happening, right?
Right.
And
That's a big
right,
deal.
a very
That's
big
a
deal.
big deal is realizing it. Because
100%.
I think people justify like the one of the hardest things is trusting ourselves.
Yes.
I mean, on like on the big level, we're always right. But we talk ourselves out of it in a second, you know? If we
Can't
could
be. I don't know how
if
I even thought. Yeah,
exactly.
can't be.
Like if we just followed our like that that little whisper in our ear, if we just listened to that and just followed it like instantly without question,
Yep.
I think the world would be a much better place. We'd all be much better. But we hear the whisper and then
We
eh,
think about it too much. And then we go, oh, wait, maybe not.
yeah,
Maybe that's not it. Right.
I
And
know.
yeah, so I think you definitely have a good point there.
But we
And
know something's up. We know like something,
exactly.
something's off. And then you kind of, you're like, ah, whatever. But
Yeah.
you heard it. You just told yourself, and then you're like, yeah, maybe I'm just tired. Maybe my shoes are just tight today. I don't
Yeah.
know.
All the other things flood into the
Yeah,
picture, right?
it's just that person like is tailgating me or something.
Yeah.
I don't know what it
Yeah,
is.
exactly. And okay, and so I want to know more about, so you're talking about science, and I'm a science
Yeah.
geek, right? It's what I
Okay,
do
great.
every day. And so tell me, I know, when you first kind of decided that you needed something that was going to bring you better results, right? And I'm definitely a results driven person. It's like, show me,
Yeah.
show me how it works. And so what, share a little bit of, just some tidbits about just that science and how you kind of implemented that into your products.
Yeah, totally. It's actually pretty fun. Um, because when you see something producing a result,
Mhm.
it's like I said, we're working off results. We're envisioning our goal, and then we're like, how do we achieve that goal? And then we kind of backtrack, like, okay, where is it? Where are those steps to that goal? And so it was we knew we needed to. So when we first started, we saw the project we got from Italy. Their sole purpose, their sole goal was getting the DHT off the follicle. So
That
that's where we realized, oh, this is something. So and it was pretty successful in that, which is why it was getting results.
mm,
So when we were realizing that it wasn't getting the results that fast enough and strong enough and full enough, we're like, okay, so one, how do we continue to get that DHT off the follicle in a faster, more holistic, longer lasting way.
Mm.
Because we don't want to hook anybody on a product for life.
Yeah.
The drug products you have to use for life. And we don't want that. We don't want you to be dependent on something other than your own body.
Yeah.
You know, so we're like, okay, so how do we get it off faster and have it stay off longer? And then how do we rebuild the follicle better? How do we aid the body in doing its natural process so that it can have a faster, stronger result?
Mm-hmm.
That's all we were looking at. So what we found was hyaluronic acid, which is found in the joints and the eyeballs. A lot of skin creams have it, so it's very moisturizing, it's very lubricating.
Mm-hmm.
We found that actually helped displace the DHT molecule from the follicle.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so we got a pharmaceutical grade, highly concentrated version of hyaluronic acid
Mm-hmm.
that was actually starting to remove the DHT from the follicle. And then it would leave behind a little sheath so that DHT would just come and just slide off, just, continue on its way.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're like, this is great. This is actually doing what we wanted to do. And then when we were researching it, it was all these independent studies about stem cells, in just people experimenting with stem cells and how they help rebuild and change and regrow and stuff. And so we were seeing all these different results, and we're like, okay, this is getting the DHT out the follicle. We want that. But we know that the blood flowing back to a damaged follicle isn't repairing it strong enough and fast enough. It's repairing it. It was slowing the shedding and doing all those things, but it wasn't strong enough. And so, because there was too much damage to really bring it back to 100%. So that's where like the stem cells and amino acids came in, because we're like, well, these are actually doing it. So in the lab we found specializes in holistic natural cosmetics.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a full FDA lab, they're a big operation. And so we kind of felt confident that if we provided them with these ingredients and these goals, that they could find a way to do it and put them all together.
Yeah. That's amazing.
And it's super exciting. It's great because people are getting great results and it's helping people. And and you mentioned and one of the things that in our society currently today, there's a lot of people on medications for various reasons. There's a lot of people on medications, and all medications have side effects.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, a lot of the medications have the side effect of hair loss.
Right.
And so one of the things that we were able to do is that since this product isn't systemic, it doesn't interfere with any of these medications that people are taking, and so that we can help counteract the side effect of the medications without interfering with their programs, which is great because there's a lot of people on antidepressants and thyroid medications, and you're trying to help your body, you're trying to handle your life, and you're doing this is how you're trying to handle your life. And on top of this, now your hair's falling out. So you're trying to get your life in order, and a lot of it's a mental condition, and now on top of it, now you're having this new thing. And so it's kind of compounding what you're trying to get. The goal you're trying to get is to get extroverted and get happy and get out there again. Yeah. And now you have this on top of it. So we found we were able to help people with this. So we do have a lot of clients that are on medication and stuff that we're helping counteract that side effect while they're working through what they're working through.
That is amazing. I love that, because you're right. So many people now, and and you're right, that is a lot. How many drugs have that side effect? I feel like it's almost it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And so especially people are going down that route because they want to feel better ultimately,
right?
And now this is what's happening, right? Not a great.
And it's not going to help because vanity has a bad connotation to it.
Mm-hmm.
But it shouldn't. Being a jerk should have a bad connotation to it.
I agree.
But vanity shouldn't have a bad connotation to it. And the reason why is because the physical 100% affects the mental. I mean, you could tell even just like when you go out and you put on that like nice suit or that cool jacket or
Mm,
that cool dress, you're like, oh yeah, it's
I
going down
own it.
tonight. I am ready. You know, whereas if you're like in the sweats you've been wearing all weekend,
Yeah,
you're like, maybe I'll eat some chips and watch a movie. You know what I mean?
it's
And
so
and
true.
all that is the physical
Yeah,
affecting the mental. That's all it
exactly.
is. So when
Exactly.
you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, yeah, I look good, you know,
Yeah,
you stand up a little better, you present yourself a little stronger, you look at people in the eyes when you communicate, and
yeah,
you walk in with a little bit more light around you, you know, and in doing that, you change the room. You know,
yes.
you change the people around you. We all have experienced that when somebody walks into the room and they're very extroverted and they're very interested in the people around them and they have that energy, the whole room kind of like, it was like, ooh, what's
Hmm.
happening,
Yeah,
who's here, and everyone kind of stands up a little. It's powerful, and it has the effect of change, and ultimately that's our goal. Is we want people to be strong,
yeah.
you know, because people are good. You know, there's a couple of bad eggs out there, but not, but it's a very small percentage. The majority of the
It
people
is.
are good.
Yeah,
So we believe the stronger we can make them, the better impact they're going to have on their group, their work, their
yeah,
church, their society, their family,
yeah,
and it could create a little bit of a steamroller effect.
exactly.
And ultimately, this is a way for us to aid in that.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's not like a big aid, it's a little aid, but it's an aid still, you
It's a
know?
piece of the puzzle, right?
Exactly.
We always, if we can, every little piece of the puzzle adds up to a puzzle that's done, right? That's
Yeah.
better. And so tell us just a little bit about, tell us a little bit more about the products, like, and how people would
Yeah.
use them.
Totally. Okay. It's More Hair Naturally.
Hmm.
Website's morehairnaturally.com.
Yeah.
And they're topical. We have we have two different topicals. We have shampoos and conditioners, but shampoos and conditioners aren't going to help with hair
With the
loss.
hair loss. Well, I
They
did see
will
the stem cell shampoo. I was like, oh, what's
It
that?
is, and that will definitely help with volume and
Okay.
scalp health,
Okay.
but they're not going to help because you got to address the DHT factor.
Okay.
And anything that you put on and rinse out is not going to address that.
Makes
It
sense.
will help with volume, and it will definitely help with how your hair looks and how styling affects it, and you know how it falls and drying. It'll help with all that, but not the thinning. So we have two products that we use to address that. One is called the More Hair Naturally 9, and that's the one that focuses primarily on the DHT
Okay.
and the rebuilding.
Okay.
Then the other one we have is the Hair and Scalp Synergy. And the reason we have two is because when we were creating the first product, the More Hair Naturally 9,
Yeah.
we discovered that, well, we didn't discover it, but it was new to us. We learned that as the hair follicle starts to get weaker,
Yeah.
the growth phase starts to get shorter. So as it gets
Oh.
weaker and weaker, the growth phase gets shorter and shorter, which is why a lot of people, when their hair starts to thin, they can't grow it long anymore because the growth phase has gotten too short.
Ah.
So we 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 were like, we gotta fix that. Like, how could we is that even
Yeah.
fixable?
Yeah.
Like, is that even something that can be addressed? And so again, we started down a rabbit hole and we found that it could be. Like there's various different sets of amino acids and probiotics, and there's different botanicals out there that can actually help elongate that growth cycle. So
Amazing.
so this second product does two things. One, it does that, and then the second thing is when the hair is thinning, any kind of non-optimum scalp condition
Hmm.
can impede healthy growth.
Mm.
So, so we have a lot of probiotics in the second one that
Yeah.
address scalp health, and that actually turned out way better than we planned, because we were just trying to address general scalp health, and that's all we really talk about addressing. Just getting just rebalancing the microbiome of the scalp so that it can support healthy growth. But we've had people like call us and be like, you know, I've had this scalp condition for years, and this product's made it go away. You know, and
Amazing.
it's just the probiotics rebalancing the microbiome.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have any claims to handling major scalp issues, but people are constantly telling us like, oh, it fixed this, oh, it fixed that, oh, it fixed this. And
Yeah.
we're like, wow, that's really great. And it's just this, it's just the body taking care of the body. You know, when you rebalance the microbiome of the body does what it's supposed to, what it's supposed to do. And that's what it's supposed to do, is
Exactly.
keep you moving forward and keep you strong
Yeah.
and handle any sort of ailments and non-optimum conditions that may exist.
Yeah. Amazing. Just
So
amazing.
they're topical treatments, and they're very easy
Okay.
to apply, because we one of the things that's important is routine. Habits and routines are essential.
Yeah.
And anything to accomplish any goal, it has to be worked on every day, period. And so we made the application very easy, because we knew if we made it too hard, people wouldn't be able to incorporate it into their routine. And it
Exactly.
has to be part of the routine. So it's just topical. You apply one in the morning, one in the evening. It
Mhm.
takes 30 seconds. You just hold the nozzle. It's an airless pump bottle. You hold it as close to the scalp as possible. Spray just enough to saturate those thinning areas of the scalp.
Yeah.
Massage them for 30 seconds.
Mhm.
Just and that's it.
And
Just go
that's
about
it.
your day.
Easy
That's
as
it.
that.
So
Perfect.
easy. And that was, and there's no grease. It's not greasy. It's not oily. It doesn't
Perfect.
smell. So it's not going to make your hair look greasy or style it or anything like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So it's so easy, and I don't know. I'm really excited about it, because it's so easy, and there's nothing like it, and
Yeah.
it helps. It helps people,
That's
and so
amazing.
we were like, whoa, we really did something right with this line of thinking.
Right? Well, and sometimes, and that's science, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes you're like, we're going to try this because we think that this is, and then when you actually see the results, though,
yeah,
that's the amazing part, right?
right.
You're like, oh, this was what we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it's
That's
so true, because you don't actually know. You it looks like it's going to be amazing.
exactly.
That's kind of my philosophy with everything I do looks like it's going to be amazing. Everything I do, I'm like, this is it.
This is,
This is
yeah,
it.
this is it. This is the end of
Guys,
it.
this is it. Put the down payment on that boat. We got it covered now.
Yeah,
And then like,
exactly.
well, maybe you cancel the down payment
Yeah,
on that
maybe
boat.
just hold off on that. Just
Yeah,
one more day or two. Yeah.
we got to do some reworking over here.
Oh, I agree
Yeah,
100%. Well, that's amazing. And again, you really brought something to light there too, is it has to fit into someone's routine. It has to be simple. It's
yes,
just as easy as that.
yeah,
Because we're talking about stress earlier and how that affects hair growth, right? And
yeah,
hair loss.
yeah,
And look at us today, right? We're running around and we've got our cell phones and we've got this and that and everything. Like it's just sometimes can be over the top for people. So I think making it easy, something they can implement simply into their routine, that's the answer right there.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing all that information. I
Yeah,
think if, and again, anybody out there, if you have issues with hair loss, I think that you owe it to yourself to check out these products. I was on the website, which is why I knew about the stem cell shampoo. I was like, that sounds amazing, and I want
yeah,
that, and I was I'm gonna try that. Yeah, and so I think that you've got a great line, and I think that if you've got this issue, which I think most of you or many of you do,
yeah.
I feel like a lot of us are struggling with things like that. Then, visit the website,
Oh, and
morehairnaturally.com. And I think Mahryah has something else to share. So go for it.
well, one other thing on the website,
Yeah.
I was very intentional in having the phone number everywhere. It's on the top and the bottom of every page. And I have a whole team here, and our only goal, their only objective is to help people with their hair. So if someone calls the number, they can have just it's we call it a consultation, and it's free.
Yep.
It's a hair loss consultation.
Love it.
Call, just ask, say, hey, I need a hair loss consultation. And basically, it's an opportunity for someone to ask every single question they have about
Yep.
the condition of their hair.
Yep.
And then we ask a bunch of questions about lifestyle, about environment, about job, about stress, about hair history, family history, and then we work to figure out what's happening, like what is going on with your hair, the best we can over the phone.
Yep.
And then we offer up some solutions, because maybe it is just like a very temporary thing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe someone just gave birth, and it's a and like, well, and it's temporary, you
Yeah.
know? So we can ease a lot of stress. We can ease a lot of stress. We can help point you in the right directions. Of course, we can offer you our products to help, but maybe it's just a diet change. You know,
Yeah.
maybe it's not so bad. Maybe there's another solution. But our goal is to help. Our goal is to help people just feel better about themselves and feel better about their lives, and to feel confident that they can take actions that produce results and know that they can make a decision that actually works.
That
So
works for
if they
them.
call, we can help guide them, you know, in a direction, at least put them at ease, because they'll understand more about their situation. And if you understand more about the situation, then you can see steps that could produce realistic results to help, you
Absolutely.
know?
Yeah.
So
I
call
think
us
that's,
too.
yeah, and I think that's fantastic because, a lot of places now, they don't, it's an automated answer. They don't answer the
Yeah,
phone. You're emailing, you never hear back. And I think that the fact that you're doing that and offering that information and kind of talking to them and supporting them, I think that that is an amazing, amazing service. So
yeah,
yeah, so thank you for sharing. I think that's
yeah, of course.
fabulous. And so again, visit the website. We have it in the description, of course, morehairnaturally.com. And Mahryan, I just want to thank you for being with us today and sharing a little bit about your products, a little bit behind the
Yeah,
science of those, and then obviously some more things, just again, kind of coming back around to lifestyle and some of those holistic health factors that we look at and review to be able to identify issues when they come about, like hair loss, of course.
yeah.
Excellent. So, thank you very much. If you're listening on your favorite podcast host, make sure you follow us. If you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Give this episode a like. We're here every 2 weeks with a brand new episode of the Human Optimization Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Pitel-Killah, signing off, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to today's show. Head over to lisapitelkillah.com to gain access to some amazing free resources that will help you gain energy, erase debilitating symptoms, and be the best version of you. Remember to give this podcast a like and follow me on social media at Lisa Pitel-Killah. I'm here every 2 weeks with a brand new episode of the Human Optimization Podcast. Until next time.